So this video is going to talk about text analysis. In other words, when the question is asking you about what a writer is doing, how a writer is doing it, and why a writer is doing it, they're really asking you about the decisions that writers make before they sit down to write. In class, we talked about how before someone writes something, they usually have an idea, a topic, a thought that they want to write about. They may also know how they want to write it or what format they want to write it in. And maybe that choice comes later. But ultimately, when we're doing a literary analysis, we are trying to unlock those decisions that the writers made. And unless the writer is sitting right there, we will never know for sure. But that's what an analysis is about. It's about making those educated guesses. So what we're going to do is look at a piece of text, and we're going to take a look at what moves we see the writer making. What decisions do we see? So I'm going to ask you to pause for a second just to read the poem. And what we're going to take a look at here in more detail is, what do we see the writer doing? What do we see happening? And there's nothing correct to see first. There's nothing incorrect to see first. It's really just what you're noticing. And there are a number of things that you can notice. So when we look at this piece, there are several things that may stand out to us. So oftentimes, students notice that there is a rhyming pattern. So that was a decision that this writer made. That the first, second, and fourth lines of each stanza all rhyme until we get down here and all of these rhyme. A lot of students, when they start looking at that, also noticed that these two lines are exactly the same. That was another choice that the writer made. So that's not an accident. If we look even more closely, a lot of students then noticed that, in each stanza, this third line doesn't rhyme with the current stanza, but it does rhyme with the next stanza. So lake and shake, sweep and deep. So these were all careful choices that our writer made at some point in the writing process. So when we're trying to do an analysis, it's important for us to notice these things. Some other things that our students were noticing was that there is a first-person narrator. That is a choice that this writer made. They also noticed that this stanza talks about the horse. This stanza still talks about the horse. But this stanza and this stanza were more about the woods and this person's house, whoever owns these woods. So there were two different topics that were covered. There are so many things that we could continue to notice. Some classes, it took a bit, but then they also noticed that there are 1, 2, 3, 4 lines in every single stanza. So there are 4 lines, but there are also 1, 2, 3, 4 stanzas. So there was a really intentional pattern and cadence, because there's a rhyming pattern. There's 4 lines. The lines are all of a similar length. Some other students then honed in on punctuation marks. So these are all decisions that a writer can make. So here there's a period. There is a period here. But in this stanza, it's only 1 line. In this stanza, there's 2. So these are all things we can notice. and we can make assumptions about what those moves do for the reader. So when we look at writing, we can look at the topic, which is a great place to start. We should look at the what. What is this poem about? So that can often be step one. But at some point, we also need to look at the how. How is that topic revealed? What moves is the writer making to reveal that topic?